Hey, everybody. You are about to hear a brief retelling of the movie Exam. Before we get started, hit the like button and subscribe. It may only be a click for you, but it has a significant impact on the channel. The film begins with 8 candidates studying for an exam that will determine whether they are chosen for a highly sought corporate position. As soon as the group enters the room, they are greeted by a man who introduces himself as the invigilator. The room features 8 desks, each of which has a piece of paper with the candidates' numbers inscribed on the front page. Once everyone is seated, the invigilator begins speaking and informs them that many others have reached this stage, but they failed to answer the question and were disqualified as a result. He also tells them that the applicants must fulfill a few regulations, and begins listing them. The first rule states that no one may choose to leave the room or they would be disqualified. They can't speak to the invigilator or the security stationed at the entryway. Candidates are also not permitted to spoil the paper that has been assigned to them. If it is damaged in any way, they will be disqualified. However, there are no laws inside the room. The only regulations they must follow are those assigned to them. The paper in front of them contains one question, and each person must provide one answer. Before leaving, the invigilator sets a timer for 80 minutes and asks if anyone has any questions. As soon as he leaves, all of the candidates turn their question papers around. However, they are astonished to see that it is empty. Minutes pass, and everyone is left perplexed because there is no question for them to answer. A Chinese woman begins to write about why she believes she deserves the job when the guard stands up and pulls her out of the room. Despite her pleas to the guard to grant her another chance, he ignores her and throws her out. Seeing this, all of the contenders become nervous since they don't sure what to do next. Unable to bear the stillness, a man named White breaks it and informs the candidates that the invigilator failed to inform them of a regulation that prohibits them from speaking to one another. He emphasizes that they should pay attention to what the invigilator had not told them. With only 73 minutes remaining to answer the questions, he informs the other candidates that they must help one another. When another candidate, Brown, asks White why he should aid him, White responds that they are competing to answer the question rather than finding the question itself. With no other option, everyone agrees to work together until they can find the question, after which they will all go their own ways. White informs everyone that they are unable to reveal their real names because they are also missing from the question paper. Once they agree, White names everyone based on their hair color or race. The options are black, brown, white, blonde, brunette, dark, and deaf. White, feeling confident, tries to push the restrictions further and rises up, claiming that the invigilator had not prevented them from strolling around the room. As he begins strolling around, Brunette argues that the question may be on the paper, but they are unable to see it. Blonde speculates that it was written in invisible ink, while Brunette employs light to try to solve the mystery. When she can't discover anything, Blonde recommends they shade the paper to expose the question. Before she can do anything, Black tells her that she will be disqualified if she destroys her question paper. While everyone discusses over where the question could be, Dark informs them that the question could be hidden in different spots for each contender. This means that they will each be given a different question to respond. Despite everyone agreeing with Dark's statement, there is little they can do. At this point, Black informs the group that they may be unable to see the question because they require non-visible light, such as UV rays. The only difficulty is that they are not allowed to leave the room or they will be disqualified. Blonde discovers a small aperture in the walls where emergency lights are housed and instructs the gang to hunt for switchboards so that they may turn the lights off. After everyone has searched the room, they decide that they need to declare an emergency so that the emergency lights can turn on. Not everyone agrees with the strategy since they believe it would fail, resulting in a total blackout. So, White offers that they vote. Except for Dark, Brown, and Deaf, everyone agrees to turn off all the lights in the room to activate the emergency lights. Then, White grabs a chair and begins shattering the lights with the assistance of others. When all of the lights are broken, the blue emergency lights are activated. Everyone again lifts their papers up in front of the light, but nothing appears. Dark points out that they haven't broken all of the lights, and she can see another one inside. At that point, Black picks up a broken piece of red glass and argues that they require infrared light, which is undetectable to the naked eye, to see the question. This time, everyone participates in smashing the light except Deaf, who sits sitting. Red lights turn on within the room, but the group cannot see the question. With barely 60 minutes remaining, everyone begins to feel nervous because they have used up a fourth of their time. White wants to test all hypotheses, so he picks up the paper left behind by the Chinese girl and tells everyone that they can spoil her paper but not their own. He begins darkening the page, but the question does not appear. White then cuts the paper in two and instructs everyone to get it wet. He then urinates on the piece of paper in his hand, but when the others ask him to bring it over to show them if the question has appeared, White refuses. While the group is debating, Deaf begins to speak. White, shocked to hear his voice, mocks his ability to communicate. Deaf speaks in French, and only Dark understands him. He gestures to the broken bits of glass on his table and says something in French. Dark translates it and informs everyone that he is constantly encouraging them to look closer. White becomes annoyed and ignores him since he cannot understand what he is saying. Brown speaks out from the rear, claiming that they are not in a normal test setting. He believes they are in a game being watched by former vice presidents. Their room is filled with people from many ethnic backgrounds, indicating a diversified group. He believes there is no question and that they are graded solely on who comes up with and starts ideas. Behind him, Dark disagrees with the theory. She explains that the CEO is a hands-on person. If anyone is monitoring them other from the invigilator, it is most likely the CEO. This information surprises Brown, and he inquires as to how Dark is aware of it. She initially dismisses it as general knowledge, but later admits that she read about it when she sought for the position. White and Brown are astonished to hear this because the corporation had headhunted both of them. While the rest of them had applied for the job, Black alleges that the posted position provided significantly greater benefits than any of the companies around them. This makes White wonder why the job needed to be listed in the first place, given how fantastic it was. Brown claims that the others have an advantage over him and White since they have researched the company, and he begs Black to inform them about it. When Black doesn't answer, Dark drops a hint. She informs him that a mystery virus began to spread 10 years ago, causing people to die. However, a business developed a viral suppressor that cut the amount of deaths in half, and this company went on to become one of the top Fortune 500 corporations, with its stock price reaching $60 billion. Brown quickly recognizes the company as BioOrg, but informs the group that they had stopped expanding some time ago. However, Dark responds that the corporation has not made the hiring public, but has begun doing so secretly. Suddenly, Black declares that they must have discovered a cure, which means that there is a job available for each of them. Brunette asks Dark how long FDA, Food and Medicine Administration, approval will take if the medicine has been developed. Dark has no answer for her, but this makes White suspicious, so he asks Brunette if she has the virus. She assures the group that while she does not have the illness, someone close to her does. When White gets her to divulge who it is, she informs him that her spouse has been afflicted with the virus, and she wants to work for the corporation because the cure is inexpensive for employees. When White learns this, he informs Brunette that she has automatically disqualified herself because the invigilator now recognizes her as the group's weak link. Instead of being terrified, Brunette jumps up and tells them that her partner's condition is not a weakness because she can now show the firm how committed she is to ensuring that he receives treatment. She then approached the guard and stole a lighter from his pocket. When Brunette climbs down from the table, she notices that her paper has disappeared. She is surprised to discover that White had set fire to her paper rather than the Chinese girls. Before she can react, the guard snatches her and throws her out of the room. This irritates Black, who threatens White with violence. At that point, the room turns dark. Brown recognizes what has happened and informs everyone that the lights are voice-controlled. Black warns everyone to be cautious about what they say next. Besides them, Def begins crying, providing White the perfect opportunity to eliminate another applicant. He taunts Def into tearing up his paper, prompting the guard to throw him out as well. Even though no one supports what White did, it makes no difference to him. Dark advises everyone to quit trying to get him to change his views since he is a narcissist. This offends White, and as he begins to insult Dark, Black comes up behind him and knocks him out. He is then bound to a chair with Brown's assistance. Black attempts to kick him out of the room, but Blonde reminds him that White will not be disqualified for leaving because he did not choose to do so on his own. Black takes White's paper and tries to move his hand to damage it, but because White is still unconscious, the pencil slides out of his grasp. White eventually regains consciousness and begs the other candidates to assist him take his medication, which he must take every hour. Black discovers that White has been infected and refuses to help him since he is a hypocrite. As White loses consciousness as a result of the infection, tension builds in the room, with only 20 minutes remaining on the countdown. Dark claims that White must have been working with BioOrg and had joined the group to keep an eye on them. But this piques Brown's interest, and he accuses Dark of utilizing reverse psychology, a technique for getting someone to do what you want by pretending not to want it or to want something else. Brown claims that she has been working with BioOrg, which would explain why she knows so much about them. However, Dark informs the others that she, like everyone else, has done study on the company. Black agrees with Brown since no one knows the company as well as she does. Brown then ties Dark up with his belt and threatens to torture her if she does not reveal the facts. Shortly after, Dark admits that she used to work at BioOrg Pharmaceuticals but had heard about the job opportunity and applied along with everyone else. When no one believes her, Brown cuts her thigh with his paper and points it at her eye, threatening to chop out both. Dark continues to beg, saying she doesn't know much. Meanwhile, Brown trusts her account and let her go. At that point, White begins to convulse. Dark instructs everyone to give him his medicine, but when they check his pockets, they discover that they are empty. Blonde inquires as to whether anyone has hidden it, but no one comes forward. She proposes they search each other for it. Even yet, everyone comes up empty. Dark realizes that Brown was a gambler and most likely employed a method to cheat. Sure enough, she uses gum to uncover White's medication stashed under Brown's desk. Brown knocks the pill out of her hands as she tries to deliver it to White, causing it to fall through a small opening. Since no one can reach for it, Dark speaks to the camera and informs the invigilator that White needs medical attention. To her amazement, no one approaches to assist him, and instead, the guard pushes her out of the room. Blonde, on the other hand, grabs the pill with her hairpin and hands it to White. When he regains consciousness, he is delighted to discover that there are only 4 of them left. As compensation for Blonde's assistance, he informs the candidates that there is no question and that the applicants themselves are the answer. White believes that the CEO and invigilator require only one candidate, which is why he has been attempting to disqualify them. He notices a gun on the guard's side and runs to get it. Before he can grab it, Black blocks him and takes the gun away. He claims that the invigilator never said there was just one position. White begins ridiculing Black, claiming that he will never be able to shoot anyone. To everyone's surprise, Black shoots White, but fortunately for him, the gun does not fire. White tackles Black to the ground and takes the revolver from him. But he notices that the gun requires a fingerprint to unlock it. He unlocks it with the guard's finger and points it at everyone, instructing them to disqualify themselves before he shoots. Brown attempts to take his paper and tear it apart, but White does not trust him and orders him to leave. Brown, unwilling to die, walks out of the room, disqualifying himself. Black refuses to move, prompting Blonde to declare her departure. Just as she approaches the room's door, she cries "Lights out," allowing Black to attack White. During this uncertainty, White shoots Black in the chest. With only the 2 of them left in the room, Blonde hides behind the door until the timer runs out. White approaches the timer, followed by the guard. He gestures to his watch, and when White checks his own watch, he discovers that 80 minutes have not passed. It turns out that Def had accelerated the timer when he stood up from his desk. A bright light suddenly appears behind the mirrored wall, but nothing happens as the timer resets. Because White spoke to the camera, asking what the invigilator wanted from him, he was disqualified as well because he violated the regulations. Blonde, the last candidate left behind, recalls hearing Def discuss the importance of looking carefully. She knows she must use the broken bits of glass as a microscope. She takes his spectacles, which he had left behind, and a piece of broken glass to examine her paper. She discovers that the paper only has question 1 written on it. She realizes that the only question posed was when the invigilator inquired whether they had any other questions. Just then, Def enters the room. It turns out that he is the CEO and has been in charge of the hiring process since the beginning. She gives him the document and says no. The invigilator joins them and congratulates Blonde on her recent hire. She informs him that she does not want to work for a company where killing another man is acceptable. He informs her that Black is not dead since he was given a medication just found by Biorg. This medication has the power to rebuild cells at a quick rate, which is essential for keeping everyone around them safe from the virus. As Black awakens, Blonde finds herself deciding to take the position, becoming the only candidate to ever pass the rigorous hiring process.